Okay, hello everybody. Thank you once again for joining another conversation on narration. Today I'm very excited for this conversation, first of all. And I'm with Dolapo Agbede, and Dolapo is in a D expert DEI, transitions coach, tech and neuroscience enthusiast, right? And basically today we're talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion in Nigeria, both in the workplace and also in Nigerian society as a whole. So, Dolapo, thank you first of all for joining, for coming to have a conversation with us. Personally, I'm so excited. So.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. So glad to be here.
Oh, excellent. We'll just start with basically an introduction of yourself, basically like who you are. Like, I'm more in relation to like we like to take like the school approach to understand a person, like where you stayed during your primary, where you stayed during your secondary, where you stayed during your university, or if you did a university or not, blah blah blah. That way.
Okay. So, hi, everyone. My name is Dolapo Agbede. So, I was privileged to be born into a family of civil service parents whose jobs took them around the country in Nigeria. So, I was born in New Busa. Then, at a point, my dad's work brought him to Lagos. Then, at a point, he moved him to Oshobo. Then, he moved him to Benin. Then, it moved him to Bauchi. And the family always moved with him until he eventually retired after 35 years of work. So I tell everyone that I'm a very happy Nigerian because I've kind of like lived everywhere. I have friends everywhere.
Mhm.
For school, for my primary education, so it started in Kainji. Then we went to continue the Lagos. Then I eventually finished primary school in Oshobo at St. Clair's.
Mhm.
Um, High school for me was at Adiswe College in Ofakwara State. I really believe that my dad, what he was trying to do was to find a good school in the middle of the country so that no matter where they posted him to, it
Yeah.
was going to be almost the same amount of time to travel to
Mhm.
get there. So Adiswe College offer was high school. I was done with that because my family was already in Bauchi. I'm the firstborn, my father's precious first lady. I went to school in Bauchi to ATBU Bauchi. So I read electrical engineering there. Then over time, I went to University of Lagos. I did my master's in international law and diplomacy. That was about 2006. And just very recently, I mean, just this 2 months ago, I graduated from the Rome Business School studying my master's in international human resource management. So that's who I am academically. Who have I been as a human being? First of seven children to my parents.
Okay.
Um, Very, positional, being a woman, being a female child, and being the firstborn, it meant that you take on a lot of responsibilities of coordinating your younger ones, right?
Yeah.
So typically, I feel like somehow I'd always had leadership around me. So
Mm.
in primary school, I got to be head girl. Secondary school, I got to the opportunity to serve as head girl. I was very active in SUG activities, in student union, in the university. For everywhere I go, I like to volunteer, be part of making things happen. I don't need to be upfront,
Mhm.
but every good leader also needs a good follower who buys in and runs around to make things get done. Somehow, Sha, I'm always participating. I've had a career as an engineer in the telecom industry,
Mhm.
starting on the field, eventually coming into the office and beginning to lead teams. So in mid management, after a while, then I became a regional leader as my career progressed based on performance. So I got the opportunity because I was working in a multinational OEM telecom outfit. That's
Mhm.
original equipment manufacturer. So I got to get trained in Europe delivering telecom infrastructure services across Africa right up till about 2018 when I decided to go full time into doing diversity, equity, and inclusion consulting. And that happened to me because um, a personal experience of mine. I transited into visual disability in 2007. Glaucoma, I was not diagnosed early enough. I was also not handled properly by the time the immediate intervention had to happen.
Mhm.
So I essentially lost my vision the way it was supposed to be. So I started only sensing light and things like that. I could not see to identify, but I was able to continue in my job and lead teams um, and the possibilities I saw for myself. That even though life had happened to me, with the right kind of support, working in a performance rewarding space where they just needed you to achieve the objective of the organization, I was able to continue in my career and in finding solutions for myself, like how can I continue to use my phone or my laptop? I met a community of people who would not have my opportunity. And that's where I lost my peace and the idea to be this diversity, equity, and inclusion person, hand holding solutions to bridge gaps for inclusion for underserved people.
Yeah.
That's where it was born. And that's what has more or less shaped the things I do, who I am, what I'm enthusiastic about, and the stories I tell.
Okay, interesting. We started strong, and that's lovely. So before we actually get into like talking about diversity and inclusion, we also like to ask like one question, which is basically how you feel about being in Nigerian in this century. I know like you have shared 2 centuries so far in your life, but like in this present century right now, what like maybe I will also add, how was it to see how a nation became like declined or was continuously declining in front of you, right? And maybe you felt powerless or you felt like, how can I stop this? But like, even with what you're trying to do, it looks like nothing was stopping, right? How do you feel like being a Nigerian, like right now in the 21st century?
So, being a Nigerian now, it's tough.
Yeah.
And when I started to interrogate why it was tough, like a few things, like I'm a data centric person, right? So a few things jumped to mind. So I realized I stumbled on the fact that at the point of independence, we were less than 45 million in our population.
Mhm.
And I mean, you know what we are now, right? What they say we are. I'm sure we're more. So,
Yeah.
but more or less, we're plus-ish of 200. The fact that we don't even know exactly how many we are is part of the issues why we can't even plan. And
Mm.
having been part of the technology sector, more or less, um, because my dad used to work in the power sector, right?
Mhm.
So the fact that some infrastructure that was in place that was forecasted to handle maybe 100 million population is still what we're kind of like leveraging today. There has been no planning, no forecasting. We're so blessed. We are rich in
Mhm.
in human capital, in mineral. We have no reason to be this way, and it always comes back to somehow we're not planning enough, or we're not respecting contracts, or we're not looking long term. And it's really weird that for such talented people, it's almost inexcusable for it to be that way. And so the push right now is, how do we even do better? Can we call out? Thank God for like the digital revolution that we're in. Thank God we can participate. Thank God that the internet has been around us since the early 2000s, right?
Yeah.
Um, so thank God for social media. Thank God that nothing can be hid anymore. Thank
Mhm.
God that as things are happening, someone is spotlighting it and putting it out there. Maybe now that we're calling out stuff, maybe as it's really, really biting and impacting us, we hear the stories from people older than we are, that they went to school and they had only two people in a room, and the lunch was free, and they had a whole chicken and whatever else they wanted. So we did not see that, and the people coming behind, I don't even know what they are going to see.
Yeah.
But the point is, it was good at a point. People planned it to be that way, and I
Mhm.
don't. It beats my imagination that people who enjoyed that did not put it in place for the rest of us. But
Yeah.
okay, now that we know better, um, I think it's just to learn from where we deviated. I don't really want to say got it wrong, but I think we got distracted. We were not, our eye was not on the ball of what the nation should look like. We had no vision of, oh, okay, in 20 years' time, this is what should be happening. There should be trains everywhere, there should be this, there should be that. Because if you don't plan that far ahead, the things you need to do to get there will not happen, right? It
Mm.
looked like we were just living living on a day-to-day, like in the lingo of our people, anyhow belle face, which is just not good enough. But we
Yeah.
can do better. I really believe that with the right kind of approach, things can get better. Nigeria will definitely be great. We can't afford not to. We deserve better. God has done his bit to give us the
Mm-hmm.
climate, the minerals, the amazing swaggy people. The rest is up to us, really.
Hmm.
And we have no excuse.
Um, Interesting. Like when you say we got distracted, right? The first question that came to my head was, when did we ever get it right? So what were we actually distracted from? Right. To say we're distracted for me is, we were getting it right and then we didn't again.
You know, there's this famous quote that everybody always says that our former president, General Guan, said, like, we're making so much money, we don't know what to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, those kind of things.
Oh, okay. All right.
You know, as per you're so focused on the largesse that you
Mm,
did not understand that it's time to build housing, it's time to put
mm,
roads in place, it's time to invest in, even if we did not know that we should call it STEM at that point in time. Because again, we're still importing all our tech, aren't we? We're
yeah.
still end users. What are we really creating locally? Yes, there are some aspects of tech that the others are so far ahead of us, but okay, there are new things that could be created and would be the ones to own that and people would get from us. But you see, that's why I said the distraction was from, oh, we have so much, it's just time to chill.
Mm,
It's like we're not oriented to build, but now we know better
yeah.
because it's hurting us and we'll do better.
All right. We wanted to jaye without knowing the future.
Ah,
Okay. So talking about like basically diversity, equity, and inclusion in Nigeria. First of all, I would say, from your story that you started with, right? Probably there are glimpses of this answer already, but then what was your first consciousness of maybe like being diverse or being somebody that had like visual impairments? Like, there's the doctor telling you, for example, and then there's like you feeling it. So what were the first times? Like I want to go like in all spectrums now, in the sense that when was the first time, for example, you realized that you're a woman, like that you felt that you're a woman because somebody maybe put you like in a lower position or treated you differently? When was the first time, maybe from your travels abroad, you felt like you were black, right? So when was the first time that you felt these things that are on the borderline of discussions of diversity, equity, and inclusion?
so again, by virtue of traveling around the country, the way we the cultural nuances of interaction between gender
Yeah.
from space to space to space is different from the south to the southeast to the north to the middle belt, the north central, So I guess the first time I actually, beyond of course, the biological things that were happening, the first time it actually struck me that, oh, as a woman, I could not just be how I had
Yeah.
been was when I went to school in Bauchi,
Mm-hmm.
So there were in as much as I was an engineering student, and we were not many in class, I think we were just four in my class, four ladies,
Yeah.
you
It's
know.
always like
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
that.
yeah. We're the borderline tomboys, right? So there were just some things that were not done. So again, it was my first time to be immersed in a more Muslim environment. So the ideas of the head covering, the ideas of the different spaces for prayer. All for me were because for as a Christian in church, everybody is all mixed up together in one building. So I think for me, and it's not a bad thing, it's just what it is. That's what the culture just states, or that's how they worship. So that was the first time I was like, oh, okay, being a woman is a bit um different
Mhm.
over here. And in the home that I grew up in, my siblings and I, boys or girls, we all did the chores, we all cooked, we all, so those kind of like showed up a bit more. Then okay, of course, at work, as you are enjoying the thrill of being part of working in new technology and making things happen. Sometimes the side comments of you're so dedicated at this job. When are you going to have time to date and get married?
Mm,
And I wasn't hearing anyone say that to the guys though.
mhm,
So that was there.
mhm.
Uh, and then of course, the higher I got in my organization,
Yeah.
especially as a technical leader, at the point I was the only female tech in leadership,
Mm,
like in the country. So that was a bit odd also. Not that other women were not there, but they were more in administrative roles. So that small divide of being, you're a bit different was
mhm.
always there. So, and as you alluded, in the course of my doing my work, so again, like I said, trained in Europe to deliver infrastructural services across Africa. So there were times when I did long-term on the job trainings with my lead teams in technical project management in France. Um, so I'm there, work permit and all. When you're moving through the city of Paris, yes,
Yeah.
you have all shades and colors. But when I was at work, I was number one, like maybe the only a black person. There was a day I looked around in the cafeteria and I was kind of like the only black person. Then I
Mm,
was a quite young female, also relative to everybody
mhm,
else. And it was nice to every once in a while see another black person,
mm,
but but I didn't even really realize how much I stuck out until when I was in that space. And those are the kind of things that made me a bit more empathetic and a bit more supportive of my expatriate colleagues when they come into Africa. Because I know what it feels like because I've been in spaces where I was the minority, right?
yeah.
And you're a bit more self-conscious, you're a bit more. So if people don't really go out of their way to make you feel comfortable, it could be a bit tough. Then, as a person with disability, I mean, um, this was not what I was born with.
Yeah.
So even the interactions, the reaction of people, like when I try to explain to them my concerns about how I feel and what is going on, and everyone wants to shush you, don't say it because if you say it, it will stick. God is supposed to take it away, but as long as you don't confess it, you need to bind and cast and whatever the doctors report. So that put a divide between those who felt that they were healthy from me who was going through this thing and I want to express myself and you are not permitting me to because you do not think that that's the appropriate thing that I should be doing. So it was really hurtful and painful not to just be accepted as I am. And then again, I've found over time. I mean, 2007 till now. That's
Yeah.
what, like 15 years. What? Yeah. So the tools that I use are not exactly the conventional ones for visually impaired or blind people. I use what serves me the best. Then I
Mhm,
also now have people challenging me that, oh, but you're supposed to be using this if you are truly this. So
mhm,
it's meanwhile, shouldn't I just use what serves me best?
mhm.
Why isn't that all right?
Yeah.
So the parts of oh even in disability space, oh, those who are born with their disabilities, their take on life, their opportunities are a bit different from someone who transited in it. And when you even transit, I transited when I was already financially independent. I'd moved out of home. I was in an expatriate career. So other people transit at different other points and all these things. So you can never deal with anyone. Even Musa, I can't deal with you like you're like you're like a batch of people.
Mhm.
No, there'll be your experiences, your choices, the things you like, you dislike
Yeah.
that shape who you are specifically. And which is why in the HR community, there's no more the logic of one size fits all no longer exists. Is a one size fits one.
Okay. Not one size fits all, but one size fits one. Very interesting. And very necessary, I think, for the framework of this conversation. Especially like from your experience, right? As I told you, I listened to your conversation with Chido, and one of the things that maybe I'm jumping ahead anyways, but like one of the things that like for me was, a bit like your explanation of how exclusion. So like in diversity, like it's
Ah,
like
yes.
exclusion or cause, especially
Yeah.
like it's even within people that you know
No,
against
yes.
strangers, right? Like that was so I have never thought of it like that. And like the processes, I know like it's because you have noticed it and like the
Yes.
processes that you could explain it like that. And like your experience has given me that liberty to say it for what it is, right? Like, and I think Jude said something like, you become an expert in accepting reality, or like in accepting reality for what it is, right? This the
Oh,
sun is
yes,
shining,
absolutely.
shining. So yeah, I just want you to talk about like explain that, like the exclusion aspect of what you went through, like when you realized 2007, I think you said 10th of August 2007, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, you've done your research. So,
So
yes, 10th of August 2007, I had this medical report that told me that was, they couldn't even guarantee me seen for another 2 months. My
wow.
life, as I thought it would be, was definitely over, right? I mean, I was already this expatriate. I was just supposed to continue to climb up the ladder,
Mhm.
maybe take like very senior position. I mean, it couldn't have been so difficult if I really wanted to work very hard to be maybe VP Africa of my organization or to even be the CEO. Why not? If I was ready to give it what it was going to take. So, and it was interesting times. And then you have this report that says that you're going to be blind. That's why you didn't even have
Yeah.
an option about it. There was nothing you could do about it. You were just going to be blind. So, like I alluded a little bit ago, when you run to people who already know you that, oh, this is the doctor's report that I have, everybody's like, oh, are you sure? Maybe they're just, trying to make some extra money with you. But you look okay. I mean, anyone looking at me right now, especially
Yeah.
when I'm hiding behind my glasses, which I choose to wear because I've been wearing glasses since I was 10. So this is one of the things that gives me comfort. Like you have maybe a favorite pair of socks or
Yeah.
something favorite that is, so this helps me have some normalcy. Maybe one day I would grow it and I'll begin to drop it because part of my biggest fears in my head, I was like, I couldn't imagine what my life would be like. I had seen blind people being led around. And typically, when you see blind people being led around in traffic in Nigeria, it's usually by a younger person who most of the time looks like they don't want to be there, right? That's not what they want to be doing. They are forced
To
to be
do.
there leading that other person around. And I was like, is that what my life was going to be like? I was suicidal for some time because I just could not imagine how life could be. And then, okay, um, thanks to the fact that I have an amazing line manager, I continue to work. So the fact that I continue to go to work and I was in a performance rewarding space stabilized me, and thoughts of suicide were not necessary because at least that part of my life was okay. But when it came to friends and family, because the situation was still there, right? Even though I was performing okay at work, and when you try to share with them what is happening, I encountered people who resisted me a lot. Sometimes I felt like they were afraid because all we all know is that once you're supportive in quotes
Mhm.
or encouraging of a person with a disability, you have just taken on an extra liability.
Mm. Mhm.
It means that that person will not be able to fend for themselves anymore. You have to take care of them. And there were people that I thought were really close that I felt I should feel safe to share with that stepped away from me, pulled back for whatever reason. Whether it was fear because they didn't want to just deal with this, whether it was let's step away before the load will become heavy,
Mm.
whether it was let me step back, let me go and be praying for you. I don't need to tell you, but I don't want to engage with you. I mean, I used to have a very active, I was always very active socially, right? And the invites to let's go here or do that. Again, to be fair to them, my frame of mind was
Mhm.
not at the right kind of frame of mind that you'll be inviting me to let's go to the beach or whatever. But when
Mhm.
I even got better, the invites did not come anymore.
Mm.
It was like, with the uncertainty of what will it even mean for them? Does that now mean they have to be leading me around? would that be a good feeling? So if there was a party of us, like alumni hangouts, and you bring in the blind person, will people feel uncomfortable? It might be simpler to just keep that person out of the room so that everyone can have it. I mean, life is too stressful. This is supposed to be like a fun hangout. So let's just keep it fun. Let's not stress Dolapo. How will she even cope? She will not be happy that we are happy. And when we see her unhappy around us, we too will not be happy. So last, the gathering, the purpose is defeated. Don't invite her to the beach. What if she walks into the water? We don't want to be responsible for that.
mm,
Yeah, if you're dating this person that has suddenly gone blind, not that it happened specifically to me, but I mean, you begin to wonder, do I want to be with our lives have not even started. We're not yet married,
mhm,
and this has already happened. What is this going to mean for us?
mhm,
Do I really want to have kids with him? But this one that is a hereditary thing, that means I'm exposing my children to the possibility of going blind. So that, many things happen because maybe people don't know enough of the possibilities that are available. That the simplest thing to do is to step away, not invite you anymore, not discussing with you, because automatically discussing with you means that they might be forced to contribute to your monthly upkeep or something.
mm,
So if I don't ask, you won't tell, and then I don't have to participate. So everything is all set up to make sure exclusion happens because there's discomfort, there's fear, there's guilt of, oh, I'm doing okay. Well, let me just leave her. God will take care of her. I don't know if that helps to clarify.
yeah, I mean, it's so
It's
true.
so human. It's so human.
Yes, and it's sad at the same time, right? Because like there are thoughts that for maybe for somebody that has not experienced that or knows nobody in their own life, personal life or family life, right, that has like disability or suffering through one thing or another, right? Those kind of things, right, tend to be like as you said, tend to be that. I remember I was in a class
It's
one.
scary.
Yeah, yes, because you don't know it's a form of change that you don't know about, and so
And you
like
didn't bargain for, and you don't want.
yes, exactly. I remember
You don't want it.
I was in a class one time, like a lecture, and then they were telling us about people with disability, and there was this story of I think it was a mother, I think it was a father, anyways, that their child had a particular disability, right? And so because the person never wanted anybody to know about it, they
Oh
locked the
no.
person up since they were small all the way to like they grew like they never allowed the person out basically for much of their lives, right? And I'm like, my initial question to that was, how does like excluding the person help the person, right? Because in a way, like by exclusion, you're adding the weight on your own self. I don't know, because if you do not allow other people to see this person as they are, because the person can't stay there forever. Whenever they come out, right, it's be a bigger shock because they were like, who's this person, right? So like the whole revelation starts from scratch, and because you not allow that, you not give permission to that person to like be who they were from the beginning, it becomes much tougher, even for you who thought you were doing something good or like we're protecting yourself, right? It becomes like an even deeper cycle that you don't know how to handle again.
Honestly, Musa, I think that so the context that you are speaking about is maybe a guardian or a parent with a younger person or a vulnerable person who's a minor or who's under their care.
Yeah.
Honestly, the Nigerians we are, the first thought process is what will people say? You
Mm,
are not thinking about the person passing through. You're not thinking about that person that you're choosing to lock away. The
mm,
first thing you're thinking is because we have this facade of what life should be like. Your family should not have persons who have any sort of aberration. You must be normal. You must be okay. the definition of what you should look like is almost cast in stone. Any deviation from it must not be seen. We keep up appearances a lot,
Mm.
right? So what is going on at that point in time for the scenario you described is because the family wants to protect an image, or they're thinking that it's something that will pass. Maybe they're quietly praying about it so that by the time the person is seen, it's now it's at a better stage.
Yeah.
But I would also say that it's not everywhere that happens, though it's the bigger norm. But we've had outlier parents that were baby bloomers who, even at a time when it was a thing of shame to have a child that was different, or for something, I mean, if it's an accident that happened, everybody would understand an accident.
Mhm.
But when it's a medical reason, or someone is born with that condition, the questions come about what did you people do? You must have annoyed God or the gods, depending on who you worship. There must be a reason why this affliction has come to this family. There are questions, and they're tough questions to answer. So, if possible, I've had to handle a situation where there was a home, a family, whereby one of the siblings was a person born with some sort of intellectual disability. This sibling was kept away from the other siblings.
Wow.
They were aware that this sibling was in the same house, but the others lived a normal life, and this one was kept locked away. So they grew up they went to school, they have their circle of friends, they are dating, they're in a career now. This person is still locked away, and if the inevitable will happen, the parents are not here anymore. There is no connection, there is no bond between the siblings at all. The way the parents have raised them has been to see this person as this liability not to be seen. The person is a mark, is a stain, is a botch on the perfection of what their lives are.
Mm.
What do you think they will do with their sibling when their parents are no longer there to directly care?
Abandon.
And there are better options.
Mm.
I mean, this is not a curse. Whatever situation it is not a curse. The person can be as independent as possible. I've not yet met anyone who does not want to have a bit of inclusion, being able to interact, whether it's they go through the sporting route, or it's poetry, or it's in arts and craft, or it's in, but there are options, and the ability to have people explore what is possible for them and do their best where they fit best is the only gift we can give to each other as human beings.
Mm. Wow.
So there are many things around us, but what also excites me is as we know better, we do better. Generations are shifting. Where we had a hard and fast generation that said that, oh, it must be hidden away. We have people giving birth to their kids with disabilities, and they're giving them the very best, right up to master's level, no expenses spared. They're cheering them on. There's special Olympics, there's para Olympics, there's special events. Inclusion is happening. And as we're seeing what is possible in other climes, it's easier to mirror. And for the spaces that contextually to our culture in Nigeria, we don't have examples existing, then we're just having conversations around the fact that a person with disability can go to church, and it does not mean that the pastor is not powerful and his prayers are not heard by God if the disability remains.
Mhm.
Because that could have been a reason not to be allowed in church, because you're bad for the image of the potency of God's presence in that space. So as we interrogate with a lot of curiosity, questioning, why do we do things like this? Why do we believe this? Do we know enough about this to do the best that is possible? And by approaching it that way, the needle has been shifting. Is it shifting as fast as people like me would like? No. But is it moving? Yes. I see in Nigeria that maybe in another 20-ish, 10, 20 years, having a disability would be just one of those things, and it will now be up to you, like with every other regular in code person, where it's just up to you to make the most of your opportunities, and pursue your dreams. But that those options are taken away from you, it will not be the case anymore. I mean, look at Nigeria, right? The Disability Commission is now in place from last year,
Yeah.
right? The bill got signed into an act into the prohibition against discrimination of persons with disability. That happened, I think, in January 2019. The commission was set up in 2020 and has been working since. So that's in itself in Nigeria means that there's already a nod to shifting that needle. Um, do people still understand all the possibilities in it? No, not really. But time and showing up and engaging and helping people to get to the best of what they can. So it's now going to be in the storytelling that people will be like, oh, I did not know this was possible. So next time they see someone, you'll be like, oh, I'm now aware that something is possible. But the thing is, the things we need in terms of policy are already in place for disability inclusion. The rest will now be the social part. I mean, I've been in trainings where, again, there are safe spaces, and these examples I give are not to for us to interrogate them to judge. No, it's
Okay.
for us to understand how, as human beings, we're finding our way and we're asking the questions that matter to us the most. So it was a workplace. They were going to be having some persons with disability join the organization, and I was there to support the organization's leadership and hiring teams to understand what their concerns were. We already knew the disability types that were going to be joining the organization, so we're speaking to specifics. And
Yeah.
those persons with disabilities are qualified
Mhm.
to be there. So these were graduates who had the right requisites, skill. The training that they had to do to be eligible was done. They had passed. So this was not a charity case thing. All the work had been done by the interns that was coming.
Yeah.
And then one of the ladies asked a question that, oh, they in that specific facility they only have a restroom for ladies, one,
Mhm.
and one of the persons coming was a lady with albinism,
Mm.
and she was concerned that, will I catch albinism from my butt area if I use the same restroom as this person? So for some people, it might sound a bit funny and they're like, oh, they would disparage it, that is weird. But this was her concern. And her concern is her truth. And it was important to just, well, okay, it's fair enough that you brought up the question. Maybe other people are thinking it, they don't even have the courage to ask it. So it's okay to ask. But it was just then we went into the discussion that albinism is just like very low pigment level of melanin. That's all. It's not something to catch. And that
Mhm.
she should please feel very comfortable to use the restroom that her colleague is using. And what I found, because this question had happened over a year ago,
Yeah.
is now with that person being available day to day in that same space, you don't see the person as different anymore. All you see is their performance and their deliverables because
Mhm.
now you're working together,
Yeah.
So I really think that as the doors are opening for people to interact, a
Mhm.
lot of those kind of concerns are taken away. Like people don't really know how to interact with a person with dwarfism.
Mm.
When last did you see a person with dwarfism, like in the corporate workspace or even working anywhere that was not their business or a family business? And
Mhm.
it was not Nollywood, because somehow once you are born with dwarfism, you should report to Nollywood for your career.
Yeah.
But they want to do other things too. They should be given the opportunity to do so. And just because you are like twice their height does not mean that there is no social etiquette for the interaction. It's okay to pull up a chair and
Mhm.
sit with a person with dwarfism or a small person or whatever way they prefer to call themselves. So it's possible to do these things and be comfortable about them. And hopefully, people will deal with people not from the point of view of the hand life has dealt you because none of us chose it.
Mhm.
Nobody chose it. It was just the hand you were dealt. Like
Mm.
we were born Nigerian, right? I'm
Yeah.
born female, you are born male.
Mhm.
Um, that person, I now have glaucoma, and it's taken away my sight. That person was born with. They didn't. None of us chose any of these things. So
Okay.
can we deal with ourselves along the lines of what we chose, like our ability to contribute with whatever value we bring? And if we look at each other from the point of view of value exchange, then I feel like a lot of what throws up as exclusion will be mitigated. So from experience is when people are uncomfortable, they avoid you, they exclude you. They don't put you on the list of people to sit on a committee. They don't put you on the list of people to be invited to that party. They don't put you on because you might just make everybody uncomfortable. So that discomfort is what we try and address in open conversations to help everybody realize it's no big deal.
Very interesting junction here. And I think like at this point, I just want to ask because you, as you said, you transitioned from somebody, who had like a career, like everything was okay. Then you realize, 10th of August, that, oh my God, this thing is happening, right? And in your conversation with Jude, right, you spoke about how you were at the phase of not wanting to dream anymore, basically,
Yeah.
right? And how you're at the phase whereby you wanted to stop everything, you don't want to dream anymore. And for me, it's when I was thinking about that, I was thinking like, I want to really know how you became educated from that point, right? Because I mean, the awareness that people that will not, or like people that do not have disability will get, right, is different from yours because yours is like a personal experience. You're feeling it, right? So I just want to know when it comes to, first of all, how were you even looking at people with disability, before then? Was it something you came out like, what was it in your mind, the whole conception of persons with disability? And how did your education change entirely once, you became that person now? And you're like, oh my God, how can I help this community?
So I would just say my very happily, obliviously ignorant self.
Mm-hmm,
Persons with disabilities were destitute people who were supposed to just be far away from me.
mm-hmm,
I didn't have persons with disabilities around me growing up. They were supposed to be people that you went and gave used clothes, gave some arms, pity for the second that they're in your front, and then you move on, you're living your life. Oh, I
yeah,
was totally oblivious to the needs, the concerns, the like person how, where, how, they did not exist for me. They
mm-hmm,
didn't. And and which is why I very openly say that when I encounter people who do not want to participate in closing gaps for disability inclusion, I understand them because if I was not in this journey myself, I'm not even sure that even if I was going to do charity work or, give some funding to some project, maybe I'll do something around the girl child, but I
yeah,
really doubt that I would have thought about the disability space because, again, maybe I was ignorant enough to think that I don't know, I didn't know enough.
mm,
And I'm not, it was just what it was. I'm not making any excuses. Um, which is why I realized the importance of not only having the conversation, but telling my story and showing up, participating actively in this. Because, Musa, I had the option to still just stay in paid employment. I would have continued my multinational career. I would have been growing to be excellent quietly there. And I did not need to be out here having this conversation at all.
mm,
But based on what I had experienced, it was not possible anymore.
mm,
So before I joined the community of persons with disability through my transition with glaucoma,
mm-hmm,
I did not see persons with disability about people. I did not even think there were people to hire. I didn't think there were people to have to be friends with. They were supposed to be people to be pitied because that was what I knew then. And it's not like they were even top of mind. I wasn't even really thinking of, look at me saying them, right? So,
mm-hmm,
which was why the realization that I was going to become blind was hard for me because the only view of what life could be like was that destitute one that I the only one I knew. And with a little bit of research, the only person who was like doing well with his blindness in Nigeria was Cobams.
Mm-hmm.
I can't sing. Where will I start to learn to play an instrument
Yeah.
now?
Mm-hmm.
And again, you don't want to do follow. Then again, I had this thing that I already had that was now going to be potentially lost.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't ask for it. So I concentrated on being good, asking God to take it away. I improved my Christianity, praying that this was a bad dream, all the back to sender prayers, all the, you know, and when it was not living and the reality of the fact that I could not identify, I mean, someone could stand in front of me, I cannot see your face to call you by name.
Mm-hmm.
I was living with this. I mean, I would I could use my laptop and then all of a sudden I can't. My phone, it was still the time when it was keypads on phones. I struggled. I think I was one of the last people to be using keypad because I didn't even know that I had options. And I definitely did not want to go near the blind people to learn what to do because it felt like if I did that, it meant that I was accepting that I was blind. So it was hard. I assure you it was hard. What were the things that helped me to cope? Number one, because I still had my job and I was getting rewarded for excellence, I was growing, I was getting promoted, I was getting recognition, I was getting bonuses. So I felt like, well, I could always wing it. That part was stable. But in my personal life, I spent all my earnings on looking for medical solutions, attending prayers. I did everything that I knew, every option I had. Every time I could fly somewhere to try and find out if something was, I was desperate. And even when you're desperate, you can really put people off your friends, your family. You are confusing for them, especially when your disability again is not visible. It looks like you're exaggerating. So it was really hard. Then it got to a point where I started thinking, well, at least my job is working. um I don't want to date anyone because I don't want anyone to eventually maltreat me or anything like that. Let me just hide in a corner and we'll make the most of what I can do. I mean, I used to be very social and very out there. I disappeared. Oh, not see me anymore, you know until I started finding tools, until I started really thinking about it. Like, it just dropped in my heart that what if, you're always asking and you want to have a life of impact, that what if this is your assignment, because you are going through this not for you, but to help others like scale, because you're already in a good place, right? You still have a job, you're earning, you're getting promoted, you have oversight for 15 countries in Africa in the role you have. So you're doing very, very, I mean, exceptionally well.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe this is really not about you. And then, by the time I started interrogating, okay, what would it mean to get others comfortable? Can I make a career of this? What do I need to tell Musa so that he is comfortable to remain in the mindset of us working together?
Mm-hmm.
So little things like, so I became my own guinea pig. So again, with my disability not being visible, I got away with a lot. So essentially, my modus operandi was now, when you meet me, I would do so excellently that by the time you are privy to the extent of my disability, it did not make you think less of my performance or my capacity or my capability. My
Mm-hmm.
competence was definitely not in doubt because you're credentialed for competencies, right?
Yeah.
But the capacity and then the capability to actually deliver whatever it was, I needed to always show up front that I made sense, so
Mm-hmm.
that by the time the person now realizes, oh, she's actually blind, but you're wearing, and I encourage people to be curious, but you're wearing glasses. Oh, they've been on my nose since I was 10, so it's not like I'm seeing with them.
Mm,
And I don't want to go where I didn't want to like go where dark shades, which would
mhm,
be the giveaway that, oh, the only thing that will be remaining is to look up in the sky, like the
mm,
stereotype idea of how the blind is supposed to look,
mhm,
and learning how to keep at eye level to the voice that is coming. So if you were physically in front of me, my social posturing is adequate, so I could look in the direction of your general direction of your face. But
yeah,
that thing that in the corporate world of being able to look eyeball to eyeball to gain trust, and of course I could not do that anymore. Sometimes if I was lucky, I was looking at the general direction of your nose
mhm,
and hopefully not your mouth, and you'll be wondering what's going on with this person. But
mm,
again, to come across with so much um making sensation in, is there a word, but just making sense for what was required, such that when the person would discover my challenges, they would not take away the opportunity. And that became the framework of shaping, oh, if we would focus on value exchange from the position of strengths, then at least productivity from the point of view of earning an income could be possible. And aren't we all in the same space right now where the new skills that are required are relatively new? Now we have the metaverse. There's some there's some roles in the workplace that were not existing 10 years ago. Like
mhm,
the meaning of a product manager today is not what it used to be
mhm,
before. The cybersecurity roles, so we're on the cusp of time where there are new competencies required in the workplace.
mm,
And having any sort of disability does not negate you participating, because with the internet, with smart devices,
mhm,
you can learn from wherever you are. The
mhm,
school of the internet is there for you. You can learn anything. You can offer services. You can freelance. You can earn depending on. So at least coming back to what you initially said about a person in Nigeria, our options are open. Is it still tough? Yes.
mhm.
But is there hope? Yes, for sure. Is there the autonomy to take charge of your life? Yes. And if you know better, do you have the options of doing better? Definitely yes.
Okay. I want to ask just out of like I'm going to come to a question and a response, right? That you posed to Jackma, and then Jackma gave you a response that I thought was interesting. I'm going to come back to that. But before then, out of just curiosity, right? Like, how do you actually navigate your phone, your laptop? Like, because I'm just like, how do you do it, right? Since
So
how?
I'm sure you okay. So again, we
Mhm.
all need to be aware that for all tech equipment, like
Yeah.
your laptops or your phones,
Mhm.
I'm sure if all of us would go to settings, if all of us, everybody would typically have a smartphone. If you don't own one directly, there's someone around you that has one. If you
Yeah.
go to settings and you check for accessibility, there's a function there called talkback. If you
Okay.
should check it. So I'm giving everybody, oh yeah, let's quickly do it. Just do a quick check. There's talkback.
Let me
So,
ask
and you would observe that I have an earpiece in my ear, right? So let me, if I pull out my plug from here, so 30, the time is actually now 13:25.
you.
13:25. So my world is now in audio. My smart devices, what you read with your eyes, I get told, just because I switched on that functionality called TalkBack under the accessibility. So your laptop, the OEMs, in line with universal access and universal design, all the things are there, they're available. So it's just you turn it on or turn it off, just like you turn on and turn off your Wi-Fi as a function. So you and I, Musa, can use my phone. When I am using it, I turn on my talkback and make it work. So this is my this is I don't know if you see that.
I can see it, yeah.
Okay. So for me, oh phone, please behave. So this is my home screen. and with all my apps on it, right?
Yes.
So I just tapped my LinkedIn, my Moodle, Instagram. I have 19 items there. My utilities folder.
Wow.
Oh my God, my Facebook has 140 something already things.
Yeah.
My EPUB reader. So when you read yours with your eyes, I touch. It tells me what it is, and so I just went into my LinkedIn page now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's Ayolua Iboriji's post that is live now on mine. So somebody liked it. So this post was made 3 hours ago.
Mm.
Last night I got together with close friends. Where you would read that, I will hear it and interact with it. I could like the
Wow.
so I put my earpiece back into.
Eh,
So the point is, for a blind person, tech has enabled us. There's also Braille, of course. Braille is there, but with technology, you can accelerate and immerse. So you and I could be in the same training. Like, I mean, you sent me a Google Doc. I interacted with
like,
it that way.
that's why I asked the question, because I'm just thinking now, how did she? It's just coming to my mind, like,
So I touched it. So I logged in. I touched. I double tapped. I opened. Where you would tap and open, my first tap would be to hear what it is that I'm even touching. My double tap will now be to open or whatever function I want. If I want to copy, I want to paste, I want to, and it reads it to me, and then I can, and that's why I could come back to you with some clarification, you know. So
yes.
so, but my point is, so much is possible. So much is possible, and it's same for the laptop. Um for the iOS
Laptop.
accessibility is for all iOS products, all Apple products, the entire range. Accessibility is built in from the OS level.
Okay.
So there are no extra costs to, I mean, once you have all those, your updates, everything updates, you're fine.
Mhm.
With the more open play Androidy
Mhm.
things, you'd have, you can, there are accessibility functions. For example, everybody, your Word document, if you went under review, you know that there's one option, read aloud, is there.
Yeah. Yes.
And you can just play it to yourself, right?
Mhm.
You play the document instead of using your eyes to read it. So a lot is around us already. For every time you use a POS machine, especially the ones that have keypads,
Mhm.
just notice anything around you that has a keypad. You'd realize that Braille is actually around you because there's a little protrusion on the number 5. I don't know
Mm.
if you've ever thought about it.
Yes.
So that's Braille, you know. So if you touch that number 5, you know, if you wanted to go to 3, you just go up and go right to 3.
Mhm. I
And
don't
if you
know,
want
but
to
like,
come from,
yes. Mhm.
sorry,
Like, I don't know, but like, I'm just learning it for the first
but
time.
but but doesn't it make sense?
Yeah, it does now.
If you wanted to go to 0 and you touch that keypad and you touch the number
Yeah.
5, you just
Yeah.
know that you're going to go down 2 steps to 0, right?
Hmm.
You could practically, as you are, if you had a keypad with you now, find the 5 and do every other thing because the layout of the keypad is known.
Hmm. I mean, this is so like
So yes,
it's
so
so.
you know, my joy, my biggest joy is to simplify these things so that everyone can see that you can easily support somebody else. Or even if you can't support them well, tell them enough to let them know that options are possible. And then we that specialize in this can help them to move further. You know, so exactly what I told you. So, you know, I'm going to just go to my, let's do this together. So again, I get the vibe that you like this. Okay.
Yeah,
So I'm going to put my
I'm learning.
keypad.
So. Mhm.
So I've gone to my phone. Oh no, that's not what I want to do. Voicemail is my bottom extreme right icon.
Mhm.
So it just told me keypad. I believe I've selected that. Okay, yes, I have. So now I'm on my keypad,
Mm-hmm.
and I believe it's displaying hash because I touched it in error. I don't know if you can see that.
I can't see properly, but like I can see the screen, yes.
You can see the screen. So where this is now a touch screen,
Mm-hmm.
that's 8 TUV
Mm-hmm.
5 4 5 3 0 star delete hash. So sometimes out of pure fun, sometimes a demo that I do in some of my classes,
Mm-hmm.
especially for the HR community, for the HR team that is onboarding persons with disability, is I'm using my phone to follow while the slides are going, right? And it's
Mm-hmm.
because I was part of the preparation. I've mastered my slides and everything. So we're having the conversation. I can see them looking at me. I can feel that vibe. Are you sure she's not seeing? And it gets to a point. I ask someone to dial themselves with my phone, and they can see that I'm doing something, and the talk back is on, right, all through. And then I turn it off and I give it to the person. And the person is touching it and it's not making those sounds. And then you can feel them wondering and questioning. And I'm like, with a lot of curiosity, we will close gaps. It's okay to ask. So I'm like, okay, you are using it because now it's purpose fit for you. Give it back to me. And they give it back. Then I turn back my accessibility. And once I turn it back on, I now use it, and both of us achieve the same objective. The only thing that I've done is to switch on talk back, which gives me access. Since I can't see, I can hear it.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So much is possible. And for the hearing impaired community, for most of them, because they can read things and read signs and everything, so it's just the gaps are in the areas of sound. So that's why we say that, especially, again, the work I do doesn't take it to the homes,
Mm-hmm.
but it's more around the workplaces, because we want to get people productive and earning an income. But if places are labeled appropriately, and for example, if there was like a fire alarm, apart from the alarm that goes off, there could be a flashing light, so that if you have a hearing impaired person in the organization, they see the flash, even if they cannot hear the sound.
Mm-hmm.
Then in every workplace, I mean, even when you join a team, there's always a body system. There's someone you're assigned to who helps you to settle in, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we ask that, that body should be someone who is interested in being an inclusion champion themselves. So that person looks out for you. And that's, I mean, even when you don't have disability inclusion scenarios, your body is supposed to look out for you, so that at muster point, you guys account for each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's exactly the same. So we say that it's so easy. It's not as hard as we think. The hardest part is the emotions of, oh my God, do I want to be around this person at work? When I signed up for this organization, to work in this organization, they didn't tell me I was going to be around persons with disability. If I had a choice, would I still have joined the organization? Um, I'm feeling sorry for them. Maybe I should not allow them to work. I cannot assign this person a task. Or you're around me and you are like, oh, see that. And then you now remember that I can't see, and then you feel bad. And I'm like, oh, no, 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 tell me. I want to see it too. Describe it to me. So I also do not have the airs to make you more uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And soon, it's going to become so normal that we won't even remember. It will take a third party who's an outsider to that entire setup to come and say, how are you coping with this blind person? How are you coping with this hearing impaired person? And I would imagine that for most of us,
Mm-hmm.
our parents probably are of the generation that sign language,
Mm-hmm.
like welcome is that from your mouth, your three fingers like this, moving it from your lips towards your belly in an arc is welcome.
Okay.
Never is a thumbs up to the back, like never is never in sign language. So the
Mm-hmm.
point is, when you do the sign language gestures before, they would smack your hands. Are you dumb or something? But
Mm-hmm.
sign language is an international language. So when they, when you fill your forms and they're asking how many languages do you know,
Mm-hmm.
sign language is a valid language to list.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want to imagine how many opportunities that also opens up for people. So there's so much that is beautiful in this space. It's not as scary or as God-forsaken or as sad or destitute or dull or full of agony as we might think it is.
Hmm. Oh my God.
Those are really strong words, right?
So like it's just I'm learning so much in such a short amount of time that like I feel like I'm another part of my reality has opened up at this instance, right? And it's just beautiful to see how like life is so accommodating generally of everything. Like you obviously in our limited cells with certain privileges, because human beings you just have this conception that the world revolves around us, but then just being exposed to other people, you realize how like there's beauty in
So many
everything.
things we take for granted, right?
Yeah, so many things you think, like even that keyboard detail, like we see it all the time, but like it never comes to my mind. I'm just like maybe a part of design.
Error, right? I used to think it was a design error till I understood. Oh my God, this is Braille. So when people say you don't know Braille, I know how to use a keypad.
Yeah. Thank you
I've
very
learned to laugh and, just to keep the conversations light.
much.
Yes, emotions can spiral to spaces that if we leave it there,
Mm-hmm.
the next time you remember me, for example, would be, how sad, it felt so sad. Nobody wants to feel sad.
Mm-hmm.
So just even having that feeling is enough to make you want to not remember that Dolapo exists with her challenges.
Mm-hmm.
But if I can get you to the place of, oh, despite this, so yes, I did not choose it. If I could get rid of it, I would. And there's nothing wrong with aspiring for that. But there's still so much that is available, though. And in my entire lifetime, the options that I have of things I can do, challenges and all, I will not exhaust them.
Mm-hmm.
So, which is why I encourage people to focus on doing the most you can of what you can do, because there's a lot more than the things you cannot do. And
Oh.
that's why I also say if you're looking for creative people, check in the disability space, because we navigate our days creatively every day, every second, every minute, every hour. We find creative ways to achieve the same things as our counterparts. We might start a bit earlier, we might learn textures, we might be more attentive. Look, you know that thing of how like in the world of espionage, there's a
Mm.
way you can filter through all the noise to come to one specific noise.
Yes.
So like you can imagine that if I were in a social gathering,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm looking out that, oh, I know Musa is going to be here. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to listen out for him. The same way you would scan a room, and, Musa just entered, because you see the person.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same that if you are speaking, if we are familiar enough,
Mm-hmm.
even in the middle of all that sound, by the time you say something, my guy don't land.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the ways you can validate that this is true is the same how a mother, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure fathers too, in the mass of kids, if their child should shout, they will look up, they will know.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the same. So those sound recognitions, everything, and for me personally, in my journey,
Mm-hmm.
I was getting injured a lot in my legs because I would refuse to use a cane. Then I use the cane that I use now, which is an orthopedic one, and people are like, "Aren't you supposed to be using a white cane?" I'm like, "Yeah, I know, but I use this one because I can tap to find my way, and I can also lean into it, so it can bear my weight, especially coming down steps or whatever." So I have a two-in-one versus just the one,
Mm-hmm.
So and that's all right. Who said that it has to be that way anyway? I'm doing what serves me. But the thing was, it was when I went into yoga and did my yoga teacher training. Some
Mm-hmm.
people would, oh my God, you've left your your
Wait, so
homegrown
you're,
spirituality.
an official certified yoga trainer now?
Oh yes, I am.
Oh wow, that's interesting. You just keep like coming out with more things.
No, but again, let's not forget. I went there looking for solutions for myself. At
Mm,
least one thing I was sure about was I now understood that this hair, eyes, skin,
yeah.
arms, legs, this is a container.
Mm,
Anything at any time. Or look, one incident, one accident, one misdiagnosis away from life as you used to know with this body, this container.
mm,
The human body is so fragile, yet so strong in itself. And the Almighty is totally amazing because this machine, nobody has been able to replicate what the human body does in its entirety. It's amazing.
mhm,
So the point was, I was now very aware that based on my um old injuries, if I was not careful, my legs, my limbs have torn tendons. So with any small sitting, I need to wear pressure socks,
mm,
compression socks,
yeah.
socks. So
Yeah.
it's hilarious. But anyway, just so that to keep my, you know, based on my old injuries. So it became important to me to do low impact stretches and mobility. There are some moves that are not natural for us to do, like doing this.
Yeah.
It's not your typical, unless you are pressing against something or you are lifting something up. It's not your typical move.
Yeah.
But this is a typical move.
Mhm,
But doing your finger like in a circle on
mhm,
its joint is not a typical move.
mhm,
Those are extras. And so there are functionalities in the body, and just like anything else, if you don't use it, it stiffens up. And that's why the older people, as you get older, you get to get stiff. But I saw literally, I guess you know what I mean. But when I say I saw,
yeah, yeah.
heard about people who, even at 80, at 90, and we have them in Nigeria, right? In the
Mhm,
villa, they are there. They go to their farm in their bending down to hold something or stretching up to pluck something or chasing one chicken that tried to eat there. They are moving in a way that in the cities we don't.
mm,
So, and what yoga, at least my teacher training, what it did for me, I was blessed to earn a scholarship. I was the first person with disability that they were accepting to do the teacher training there. And I've also realized that when you show up and you explain what you're looking for and you're willing to try, people meet you halfway. In fact, they meet you more than halfway.
mhm,
One of the experiences in one of the trainings over 5 weeks was a day when we had to do our practice with blindfold. They didn't bother to blindfold me, but it was an opportunity that day for me to speak to my other yogi to ask them they felt disoriented, they
mm,
felt lost, they were uncertain in their practice because now they could no longer see, even though what you were looking at was your own self, your fingers on the mats,
mm,
but the things you're expecting to see, now you're blindfolded. So it threw them off. They were more uncertain. Their practice took longer. But that is what I live every day.
mm,
And people expect you to keep pace with you. So the average, back to my initial comment, the average person with disability is we're creative in the way we we show up and we interface, especially when we don't want to be excluded. We want to show you that we're not going to make it hard for you to let us tag along on this. I mean, it's just like when we're setting up to start the session, right?
yeah.
I had to ask you if my background was okay, if the camera tilt was okay, but I pretty much already knew what to do. I just needed to check in with you that it was fine.
Mm,
So it's the same way. Everybody's going to meet you halfway. And then, interestingly, what I realize about people is number one, maybe they meet you, then they're now surprised about what your challenges are.
mhm,
Then they not sure whether awestruck is it about how you are coping. And
mm,
then they now go into the depths of, oh my God, I'm
mm,
so sorry this is happening to you, the sympathy. But
mhm,
if you leave people there, then we've not done good. We need to come back up to realize that challenges and all, people are still doing great stuff. They're still doing good stuff. They can be happy. And you can be happy with me. And let's see what we can do together. So it's like, oh, while I wish Dolapo did not go blind, or anybody who's suffering with any sort of condition does not have it, I still acknowledge that they're doing great, and I'll do my little bit to participate in the things they are doing. And where I can make it easy for them, that will be great. I will commit to doing that. And where I can do nothing, I'll thank God for their resilience to keep pushing anyway. Now, if we have that mindset, you'll be a bit more positive around. Then again, we need to remember that people are at different stages of their journey. The Dolapo that is speaking to you now wasn't the one of August 2007, when I first got that medical report. Things have stabilized me to see possibilities. The first one was the fact that I did not lose my job. And then I was growing on the job because, again, I could have been at the workplace and they just kept me out of charity so that, well, let's just help her. But no, I was working and I was growing, and it gave me the confidence that, oh, I can do anything I put my mind to. And the last lines, because I did a little appreciation video to where I did my yoga certification at Madoka. I did a little recap of the lessons that I had learned, and it's up on my YouTube channel. The last, because in one of apart from the physical practice, we also learn about the function of the body. Because if you don't know, you could actually potentially injure the person you are training. So you need to know the physiology, the endocrine system, the circulatory system, all the systems, the excretory system, the skeleton. You need to know everything. It was like being back in biology class with depth, because it's a responsibility to put a person through the motions of yoga, right? And then there was also the part about the mindfulness. You have to clear your thoughts, the self-inquiry, so that you let go of the things that are blocking you, like maybe anger or whatever it is, so that you have the clear head to be your best self. So that self-inquiry part is there. And the outcome of my self-inquiry was the very last line in that my tribute, giving back, sharing the highlights of what I learned while going through the motions. Oh, and then we did acro yoga also. So that was really interesting. Yeah, that was really fun.
What's
But
acro yoga? Like, sounds like
so
acrobatics yoga or
so
something
it's
like
acrobatics, but now it's yoga. So it's acro yoga. It's yoga, moving through the motions of movement while still doing gymnastic-y things. You can position a person to like fly while being.
Wow.
I don't know how to explain, but look up acro yoga, guys. There's even aqua yoga.
Inside water.
Inside, so yoga in water. There's there's so much around, like,
Okay.
there are adventures everywhere. But let me just come back to the last thing I was saying. The outcome of my self-inquiry, and I did my yoga teacher training certification program in 2019. It was like, the lie that I'm giving up is that I am limited and I'm unworthy. And my new way of being is that of freedom. That was where I came to. In fact, I'm breaking out in goosebumps that I'm saying it. My outcome from my self-inquiry process, which took days, by the way, it wasn't, because you had to confront what you feared the most. You had to confront the limiting beliefs you had about yourself. You had to interrogate whether you thought that you were still worthy of love of your creator. Then even to accept that we have choices, and even not choosing is a choice. A choice to not do is a choice. And so those were the things that helped you to realize that in the end, no matter the circumstance, the final decision of how to be, what to do, is still yours. Musa, you could advise me now, but taking the advice, rejecting it, is still up to me. So that mantra of it, if it's to be, it's up to me, is valid. So permit me to say again the outcome I got from my self-inquiry that empowers me so much. It was that the lie that I am giving up is that I am limited and unworthy. And my new way of being is that of freedom.
Sorry, let me just write down what you said about like if I am
If it's to be,
if it's
is
to
it
be
that?
up to me,
It's
yeah,
if it's to be, it's up to me.
that's so powerful.
Yes, it is.
I think I'll
And
do
like I shared with you today, honestly, what this journey, this disability journey, what it has done for me as a
Mhm,
person, because I'm not sure this person that is sounding all philosophical and who's embracing life at maximum, I'm not sure this is who I would have been if my challenge did not happen to me. I am sure I might still have been an excellent professional, but my life would have been on autoplay of get married, do this, oh, I'm there, the stereotype of what good life in quote should be.
mhm,
But this, my journey has interrupted whatever that was. And
mhm,
that life is dead to me totally. So I have a more mindful life. I have a life that is I am like I shared on that in that session that you're always referring to. My disability journey helped me to apply a sieve to my life, such that it was only the things that are really important that
mhm,
remain.
mhm,
Only the things that are really important that remain. And with that, it helps me to shape what I spend my time on, who I do things with. There's no time to waste. Time is the most precious things we have. I just imagine that there might be someone somewhere who maybe if they hear a bit of my story will realize that they have options. They don't have to come to me. They should just start searching. You know how the word question has quest in it. You
mhm,
go on a quest for your life.
mhm, mhm,
Identify what you would want, then find out how to get it. Get on that quest on how you can make the most of yourself. It is very liberating, it's very empowering. It can be also very scary, but at least if you will not tell the truth to anyone else, tell your own self the truth. Keep in mind that your truth might not be the truth. And your world and the things you know is definitely not the full expanse of what is available across the entire world,
mhm.
you know. So learning every day, approaching everything with curiosity, doing the best part time is
Yeah.
enough. Understand that everything you need per day, you already have it. So just do the best with it. Be kind to yourself first and then to others. So you can, anything you don't want anyone to do to you, don't do it to anyone else. So with all those principles, you want a reward, give what you want. You want to smile, smile at somebody else. You want to make money, give value, commiserate to the value you want to get.
Mhm,
So you want to earn in 7 digits, 8 digits. Look at what roles earn like that. Work on your growth to have that competence. While you are working at it, where you are, do your best. Literally two things to make us really good people.
mhm. You mentioned first of all, like such. First of all, I think I'll do yoga now. I need to.
Oh, nice.
It was always something that I'm a runner. I mean, I've moved, I've limited my running for some several days, but I used to
Oh,
be heavy, like run like 5 kilometers kind of run, like quite long
nice.
distances. No,
Nice. Do you
sometimes
do your stretches after?
no, so not. I mean, like just like the basic ones, like stretch your legs and hands, but then
Ice packing? Do you do all of that to make sure the impacts to your joints are minimized?
no, like so there's a whole procedure. Yeah, I just run because it's like it's for me. It was pleasurable to run, and that's why I ran. Right, because I mean, so for two reasons. Because when I am running, first of all, like it's a break from every other thing. And there's something about running that makes you think clearer. Especially like when, so okay, say it depends. There's running with, like music or a podcast, and then there's running without anything. I think when you're running and there's nothing, right? You are, it's like yourself is on a car, right, following you whilst running and speaking to you. You know how, like, I don't know, in movie sets, or like in different places anyways, like how, for example, somebody's chasing you at the same time that, like, you are doing the running. It feels like you are chasing yourself, and then that third
Mhm.
person is speaking to you, and so you are listening much better at what is happening, right? Your thoughts, your mind, and in a way, right,
Open.
it opens up and you decipher, like, what this is, maybe like things you had problems with, issues like you're trying to resolve,
The
like,
solutions dropped.
there's clarity, kind of like when you shower.
Yeah.
For me, like, showering and running have that same effect, like hot showers. But like, yeah, recently, like, I've first of all, like, maybe the time I haven't created enough time to run, and also like the pleasure I used to get, I don't get from it anymore. So it's like
Mhm.
more difficult to run now. Because what I used to, it was a means to something, but it's, that thing has disappeared somehow. But like, yeah, yoga has always been something that, like, because I've been in classes, of Asian studies, and they spoke about Confucianism, just like, their traditions. And it's always like, from an African perspective, there was this exotic feel to it that, like, oh,
Mhm.
this is interesting, right? Just like how, Europeans do African culture, that kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
But like, I think it's really just about, especially in our reality, in our day to day, the ability to confront.
Self-care.
Yes. Um, Self-care by confrontation. Like, we really just need to open up, right? A lot of times we use other things as a distraction, or other things, because we do not actually want to, like, sit down with ourselves. Like, so we engage in activities, we do
You're
this.
so busy, you can't hang out with yourself.
Exactly.
You perform activity. Now what's happening? What's happening? You pick your keys and you're out.
Hmm.
You can't just be with yourself and clear your mind and just. Some people are genuinely afraid of being with themselves. They don't.
Yeah. But I think it's because, like, in like, because we do it so much, it has become, so distracting ourselves from ourselves has become a habit. And as a result of that, right, everything that you have buried down, the realization that you have to now start unpacking it, right, it's a loop. So every time you want to do it, you realize that, oh my, there's so many things I have to think about. So, like,
Yeah,
so like,
yeah. I don't want to
I
deal.
don't want to do it. Then, like, the deeper you go, the deeper you go. Like, it's like a deep calling to deep moments, and you're like, when you now confront it, it's like, oh my God, this is going to be, that pain, right? And, maybe the equivalent of a 10th of August 2007 moment happens to you. And so you now have to, like, really get to that point. It's like you, right? Wherever you're in your yoga classes, final days, and you have to come out with one line and tell yourself, like, this is it. Like, this is the fear, and this is how I want to live above the fear. There's a movie I watched. It's Doctor Strange, so it's a Marvel movie, and
Okay,
there's a point whereby Doctor Strange is speaking with the old ancient one, or old one they call her. So she's this woman that's tapped into time, like she doesn't want
okay,
to die, and she gets to a stage whereby she tells, obviously, like, Dr. Strange is this guy that's excelled all his life, and so he actually gets into an accident whereby his hands are broken. So he was like a very good doctor. Said his hands are broken and he can't do surgery anymore. And so he goes on a quest, right, to look for, how can I solve this at the end of the day. And I think the realization, so after everything, he goes to this teacher that teaches him, more about himself, more about, like, the world, the real world, blah, blah, blah. He comes to the point she's dying, because, like, she has gotten to that position over and over again. Like, that point, there's a phase where she can't pass anymore, and she realizes
oh
maybe
yeah,
that dies. So she gets there, and she just, about to die, looking at, what is like the world. Doctor Strange comes to meet her, and she's having a conversation with Doctor Strange, and she's basically telling him how, the weakness that he has possessed, or the weakness he thinks, the accident, right, that has limited his ability to become a surgeon or to continue as a surgeon, right, has allowed him to realize these things about himself, right? And she just tells him about two options. So you can choose to, get your life back, but the world will be worse for it. Or you can choose to now be part of something much greater, right? Through your weakness that you've identified, right? And for me, it was just like, and she concludes that with saying that the greatest lesson of all is realizing that it's not about you. Like when we go through something, like yeah, it is us, the individual self, that has been impacted, and we feel it deeply and personally. But like it is through us that something else will be birthed, right? That will help somebody else. And does the lesson, like I constantly go back to that scene over and over again, just like a reminder. If I could put it inside the Bible, I'll put it like somewhere, as an appendix, somewhere in Proverbs, maybe, as an appendix, right? To just a constant reminder. And I just listening to you today, I'm just like, it's like that
All
scene.
makes sense. Yes.
Yeah, that scene is in front of me.
Honestly, when you get to the point when you realize that you are actually truly not limited,
Hmm,
the only thing is that you pivot into your strengths.
hmm,
Yes, it was supposed to go this way, like I was supposed to be this surgeon, but okay, now the hands are not there to do it. But you now discover capacities you have that you might never have given a second look,
hmm, hmm,
So, and seeing what those things now brings to everybody else, like helping people feel safe
hmm,
to practice inclusion is, I think, my biggest joy.
hmm,
There is no silly question, there's no crazy thing, as long as your intention is to do better. And then there's also no pressure.
hmm,
You know, sometimes you've been hardwired to be terrified of a person with dwarfism or a small person.
hmm,
So when they show up a bit more, I remember it was 2017. It was on Uncle Sonny Irabo's Sonny Irabo Live, and somebody called in. It was a lady, she was a blind person, she was interested, and we stayed in touch after that radio show had happened. And she asked me 3 questions on our first day of speaking over the phone.
hmm,
She was aware that I was visually impaired. I did not know she was a blind person. She had transited into blindness before she finished school.
hmm,
The first question she asked me was, had I ever been around over 100 blind people?
hmm,
I thought it was a weird question, but I was like, no, I hadn't. She asked me if I had the opportunity to be around 100+ blind people, will I do it? I was like, the person I am, and I was at that point in time, I was like, yes, of course. She now asked me, would I stay? Like if the program was a 1 hour program, if I popped in, would I stay and finish the program and identify? Because her point was, most people do not want to identify with persons with disabilities, even if they are out of the closet in quote
hmm,
about it. And I had never thought about it until she asked me, but I did not understand why I would not sit with my community.
hmm,
So, every time I'm in a space where there are persons with disabilities in the audience or whatever, where, and I'm sat in the audience, I generally go sit where they're sitting. I try to find out how can I have a personal conversation with a hearing impaired person. I cannot see them,
Mm,
and they cannot hear me. And
mm,
we don't want to use sending chats.
mhm.
How do you think we're going to interact? And we don't want to use a sign language interpreter who the person will sign to and then the person will verbalize to me. We don't want to use any third party. We want to directly interact.
Wait, so yeah, in a community of like people.
No, no, not a community. So it's a one-on-one. I'm with a hearing impaired or deaf person. I am visually impaired or blind. We want to converse with each other.
Touch.
Absolutely. There's tactile sign language. So it will be by touch. So
Hmm.
I look forward to getting the time to learn to do that.
Hmm. Like,
What's my main point? There are options. There are options. There are options, and they are not scary.
yeah. I I want to ask you a question. I listened, like I heard the three songs that you said, you said at that point,
Ah, okay.
like,
Did you listen to them though?
I listened to three
Did you
of them
find them?
coming of
Oh,
the
okay, nice.
all coming on this conversation. I was here by Beyonce, This Is Me, The Greatest Showman, and then
Yeah,
While I'm Waiting in the Fireproof
yeah,
movie.
from the soundtrack. Yes.
Um, and I think like the This Is Me in The Greatest Showman, right? There's a particular lyric video of it that shows different individuals. Right. So I don't know if someone has described it to you before.
That diverse.
Yes,
So what they told me about the movie was that it's like people who did not look regular. So it was embracing diversity, and
yes.
everybody came as they were.
Mhm. So in that particular, so like the music video I saw, or like the lyric music video I saw of the song, right? Because I haven't watched the Greatest Showman, like I know about it, but I've never actually watched it. So like listen, like hearing you needing to go back to listen to it now because I wanted to like really have a conversation with you and like seeing how there was this woman that had like beards and there was a man that was all tattooed on
Ah,
his body. There was this giant man that was too tall. There was a dwarf. They were like a woman that had like a man that had horns, right? So different kinds of people and whatnot, right? And like, yeah, probably that's the aim, right? Diversity at the end of the day. And I'm just thinking how, and so in the music video, they start the song, and about 1 minute into the music video, right, they walk into this ballroom with supposedly,
okay.
quote, normal people, right? Like, two couples being together. And then they walk into, the ballroom. Obviously, like everybody's like shocked, like what's happening, right? And they move
You
up.
guys are not meant to be here.
Exactly. Like, this is not your space. And just how,
Not freak land. No, no freaks allowed. I can imagine.
yeah, and just how
This is
like
amazing.
bold and confident they were. I don't know if there was like the standard dancing and whatever. But for me, like at that point whereby, just it was like 3 minutes or 4 minutes, but at that point where they came out, right? For me, the weak people were not like in real life, privileged people or people who are supposedly normal, right, are actually the weakest. For me, it is more in the sense that, like,
They are less resilient.
yes, that's exactly like they do not. Maybe because their privilege weakens them. I don't know if that makes sense, but like it clips their wings. It cuts them from being able to see anything else apart from that privilege or that, like in quotes, good
Easily.
reality and normality, right? But then with other people, because you are starkly faced with difference, right? And you starkly know that you are different, right? So it's like a wings that you are always conscious of. And so you have
They are
so
more mindful. Mindful is
my,
the word. You're more mindful. You're more intentional.
Mhm. And like it just allows you to fly in a way, or whatever, the analogy of flight might be amongst other people, right? It allows you to do that, as compared to
So
other
you
people.
are liberated because you don't have to conform. You can't anyway. There's no way to hide it.
Yes.
So you're freed of needing to conform. So you explore everything else you can be.
Exactly. Uh, so like this comes to my question now, especially because I mean, if you don't want to answer it, that's fine. But like I'm just curious and I want to know, you spoke about relationships. I wanted to know like I don't know if you're married, if you're not married, but like for you, before you became somebody that was visually impaired, what was romantic relationships like to you? And then like when you became visually impaired, like what do you now see as romantic relationship? Like what is the significance to you like now? Because for me, it's an important aspect of human life that we normally don't talk about, especially like in Nigeria. You leave it to the last moments, right? When you're about to get married or whatever, like nobody speaks about it. But like in your case, I'm really just curious to find out like what it is like.
Okay. So, before my disability journey, I must say, because I was more interested in an expatriate's career,
Mhm.
and I had, in growing up, I'd seen situations where, because a woman was married, she could not chase the career she wanted because societal expectation was you're supposed to be at your husband's side, you're supposed to take care of the children. So anyone who wanted more, that's not normal,
Hmm.
So for me, I I was dating, but I mean, it would take quite a lot to even get me interested to date you. But I was in a career that was vibrant. That was so much was happening.
Hmm.
The prospects in it, everything. I was in my dream job. I was traveling practically every 2 weeks. And then,
Mhm.
so in my mind, what I knew of marriage was that you were going to be grounded
Mhm.
after. So, like, your partner now will define the kind of opportunities you had. So I
Yeah.
wasn't ready to give all that up. So it wasn't anything gang gang or whatever. But at the back of your mind, you're like, oh, at a point you get married, you have kids, you know. But I really wanted to do as much as I could. And I had a mindset of let's him meet me as I am more, so that he's not the one that by the time we're married, he will now say, I cannot.
Mhm.
Was who I was.
Yeah.
By the time the disability happened, you can be sure I had no time for relationships.
Mm.
I had the work that I was so grateful that my job was there, that I poured everything that was good in me into. On the back end, when I had to, like, work will always close now, and then you now have to go and face your own self, and then you interact with your families. Then I was on a hunt for medical solutions. And until I finally accepted that, okay, it looks like everything that can be done. We've tested it. I've spent all I have. And there's nothing. There's really nothing else to do. Then me resume with Baba God
Mm.
to okay, do your thing, and it did not happen. Till I got to the point where, and in this, I still kept on traveling across Africa to lead teams.
Mhm.
You know, across the 15 countries that I had oversight for. So yes, did I meet people? Yes, amazing gentlemen.
Mm.
Some with their stereotypical idea of, oh, my wife needs to be a homebody. It did not mean that Dolapo had to be the one to cook or anything like that. Not that I can't. I do. I cook for myself and everything. But they had their own ideas of what a stable home should be like. And
Mm.
that was not particularly interesting to me. Then I'd also been in when something is tending to something not good for you, but you notice it on time and you're like, guy, this thing is not going to work.
Mhm.
When a person in caring for you, and this happens for me it's not even just about the men in my life, even the women, because I meet some women who are so caught up in their wanting to support me, and all I do that the day that what they think I should be doing and what I want to do is different, you see their other side,
mm,
you know? So they will change it for you, like, you must do this. And I'm like, no, it's my life. It's my choice. You can bring an option to me, but the final choice is mine. I'm not confused about that. So like they want to take care of you, they want to pamper you, they don't want you to be stressed. They think that you're working too hard when you're at your laptop and everything. They want you to do this, but that's not what you want to do. So being able to like put your foot down, I'm like, look, I'm in charge of myself.
mm,
And so this kind of care is not welcome. The person I am today is this person who is working hard and making grounds at being the leading DEI expert across Africa. There's so much work to be done. You know, my partner would have to be a person who understands what drives me and
mm,
who's ready to be part of that journey. What would that even mean for us? It might mean that if he's more in a stable space, it means I will travel a lot.
mm,
Sometimes he can come, sometimes he can't. Is he okay with that? You
mm,
know, so I'm very clear. Me too. Am I willing to shift, meeting the right person? I'm totally open to
mhm,
it also. So there I do know, and I tell anyone who feels um like they cannot have a romantic relationship just because life has happened. No, there's so many amazing partners out there who would love you as you are, who would appreciate you as you are. But there's also the element of you. What do you want? Which is supposed to be what the elements of any healthy relationship, right? So not that they are not amazing, great people, but we're not aligned
mm,
on how our lives would be, you
mm,
know. So like I said, I've taken this, I'm on assignment.
mm,
Anyone who cannot buy into it, let us make the sacrifices together that it would need,
mhm,
really would not have a place in my life today.
mm. Okay. It's so clear. Like it's so clear. Thank you for sharing that. I'm going back to the Jack Ma question I actually wanted to ask.
Okay, all right.
So yeah, you guys spoke about how you asked him a question on employers, right? Like how employers, like what he would tell employers on people with disability. And then his response, like he spoke a bit, and then there was a particular point he spoke about how in the Jack Ma Foundation, like they're building this curriculum for people with disability or like to help inclusiveness and what's not, like with skills. And like so like the thing that came to my head is that whereby like yeah just like that is fundamentally good because it gives it economically empowers people with disabilities, like getting skills that will allow them to maybe get a career or get like jobs or whatnot, right? But the thing that came to my head is if we just exclude people, like people with disability, just digital skills and digital like so like remote-ish kind of work, right? Whereby like they're working from home or they're working behind a computer, right? And not in offices per se. Are we really solving the main problem in the sense of connectivity with other people, right? Because yeah, I mean you will have teams, but then like when it comes to other people really understanding how to in a work culture live up or like live with people who are not like them, maybe are we like does that solve it? Because I didn't feel like his response was good in the sense of like we need a syllabus and a curriculum, and I understand that, right? But then like what about physical work areas?
So I think just to clarify, there was a context to that. So that entire event was
Okay.
the Nigerian Digital Economic Summit. And
Oh.
the theme was around digital inclusion. That
Oh.
was the theme of the entire program. And
Mm,
what he actually said was that at Alibaba Group, that
mhm,
some of their best staff are persons with disability,
okay.
was what he said. And what he committed to with Jack Ma Foundation was that he was saying that as you and I know, with this device, you can learn anything, right?
Yeah.
Your phone.
Mm-hmm.
So his point was put the devices and the attendant infrastructure of data and power in everyone's hands. It levels everybody. So now, if someone wants to do a micro certification in data science now,
Mm-hmm.
we all have the same access.
Mm-hmm.
If a person wants to work as a freelancer remotely, your options are open to you in a way that it might not have been before,
Mm-hmm.
was what he was speaking to. Then
Yeah.
again, of course, you know that his entire enterprise is digital, internet based,
Yeah.
his businesses, right? So that was what shaped the point of what he was saying. But back to what you are saying about nobody hires persons with disabilities to have persons with disabilities at work. No.
Mm.
Every employer hires a person to bring a value. So the only thing is, because you want to be inclusive in your workspace, you actually have it there that persons with disability, qualified persons with disability, are encouraged to apply.
Mm.
Now, if their skill level, their competencies match what you need in the workplace, then you hire them to work and then you make the work culture conducive for them to perform optimally. That's what happens. But
Mm.
if it's just that tokenism, me too, I want a person with disability to be at work, then that's not getting. In fact, that is borderline disrespectful, honestly. It sounds like you just want to tick a box.
Mm.
The work that we do is to say that there's space for everyone to thrive.
Okay.
There are people with physical, visible disabilities whose parents, against all odds,
Mm-hmm.
have educated them.
Mm-hmm.
They should be allowed to apply and compete with everybody else to have opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
What we're saying that it's not difficult for them to be part of everybody else. And just because everyone doesn't know how to deal does not mean that it's not going to be easier than they thought it would be. It is
Mm.
that people are qualified to work. You know, we they say that in Nigeria we have an employers market, right? And in talent management, an employers market is where you have more people looking for work than available jobs. So employers are kind of like sports for choice. But I'm like, no, I beg to differ. We have a talent market.
Mm-hmm.
There are some skill sets right now, like if you're a full stack developer, it
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't matter whether you're a person with disability or not.
Mm-hmm.
The band of what your pay grade is the same.
Mm-hmm.
The need of that organization that is looking for a full stack developer is the same. I assure you, with your skills, they're not going to mind whatever reasonable accommodation will be required for you to work.
Mm-hmm.
What the workplace is today is also evolving.
Mm-hmm.
People are beginning to realize that they can optimize cost of that building by having their remote teams, and then maybe they gather together once a quarter or whatever it is the strategy of the organization is. So in the new world of work, the opportunities, especially for those who might have severe impairments, to because again, the workplace is not the one that would your transport from your home to the office. There are issues there, like in Nigeria, for example,
Mm-hmm.
so it's not so easy. And then you might not be in the kind of pay grade where you have a car and a driver for yourself.
Yeah.
And then the organization might not be one that has staff boss, but even if they did, maybe they don't, your abode is not in their route.
Mm.
So the options of virtual work
Mm-hmm.
is it just opens up the viability for earnings for everyone,
Mm.
you know, in a
Yeah.
way that you might not have been able to do before. And more than ever, as a freelancer, as a virtual worker, as a virtual teammate, what you're doing is to compete on deliverable. That is what is going to keep you in that organization. Your ability to deliver aligned with the objectives of the organization is why you will get paid. It's not because you're the nice guy that smells nice and you walk through a space. I mean, you leave a feel goody impression just because you smell nice or something. No, more and more, the bottom lines of organizations is so hard hit by the realities of inflation and everything else. And
Mhm.
then also the growing demand of more social contract aware workforces. If you don't treat me well, I'm going to carry my talent and move to a place where I'll be treated better.
Mm.
Then, of course, let's not talk about the jackpot that is also there.
Yeah.
So people are understanding now that they have options. You cannot just tie people down. You need to do better. For me, I am excited about digital inclusion because everybody's excuse is gone now.
Mhm.
The thing of, oh, when I took my child to school, they did not allow her to learn. Other parents started removing their own children from that school. So now the school proprietor does not want to lose business. So please come and take your one child because 20 parents are removing their 35 children.
Mhm.
Will not happen anymore because your ability to learn from anywhere. Is it a perfect world, Musa? No, it's not.
Mm.
But the options available to us are by far better now. And for those who would want to focus on what is not working well, they have enough to find. But
Mhm.
for those who want to leverage everything that is going the right way, they also have quite a lot to leverage. And let me point out a few things because we keep talking about Nigeria, right? So the disability law, prohibition against discrimination of persons with disability law is in place. If you are qualified and discriminated against, let's test this law.
Mhm.
Then with the UN ILO, because the ILO is the gatekeeper to make sure that employee relations is right with employers.
Mhm.
There's this program that they're doing globally. It's called the Disability Confident Employer.
Mhm.
And part of that program is that every country should have what they call a business disability network,
Mhm.
where all enterprise in that country, whether it's multinational or small man, SME, you all are part of that community, and it's to close disability gaps specifically.
Mm.
So the gap between the talent pool and hiring persons with disability. The Nigeria Business Disability Network was inaugurated last year. We had our first conference this year, sometime in May. So, Nigerians, if you Google Nigeria Business Disability Network, you'd see that a lot of the conglomerates are already part of it. And every organization you see with their logos there
Mhm.
are organizations that are open to hire qualified persons with disability. They are also participating in upskilling persons with disability because part of the realities are that right from home, when people were like some 20, 25, 15 years ago, a child with disability was likely not to go to school.
Yeah.
So, and that's parents too, that's not employers,
Mhm.
because it was a waste of money or whatever it was. So that's why kudos to the parents who, against all odds, still educated their kids then. But for those who fall into that bracket, closing the gaps of your knowledge, you have your smart device now, and there are places are waiting to hire you. You just need to be at the skill set of what they also need. They will not create positions for you. No,
Mm.
it's that you fit into something they need and they will not discriminate against you because you are how you are. It's that you have the skills, you can bring value, and they will pay you value also.
Mm.
So you see, a lot of really good stuff is happening.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification and just those details. I think they're very necessary to have. Just as we begin to round up, I just want to ask you a question about paradigm. So that's the organization I'm working on. Basically, like what do you guys do or what are you
Ah,
doing, the services you offer? What is it all about?
okay. So Willway Paradigm, I founded it.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I registered the name sometime in 2015.
Okay.
And it just dropped to me that where there's a will, you'll find a way. And with a little paradigm shift, everything is possible. And then because, it just used to annoy me that people used to think that because you're a person with disability, automatically your company is an NGO.
Mm-hmm.
So it's made me make sure. So the full name of the organization is Willway Paradigm Services Limited. So people will know that it's a limited liability company. It is not an NGO. So what we do is we provide um, advisory products and services around diversity, equity, and inclusion. So what we do is we offer you bespoke solutions across your people, your workforce,
Mm-hmm.
your processes like your HR, talent recruitment, your spaces, your platforms like your application. Are you sure that everyone can use it? Can a blind Dolapo, did you do it so well that a blind Dolapo can use it? And if we check and we support you to see that, oh, it's not accessible, you are missing out on a massive, massive community,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And then your programs, is there anything you want to do? Are you making sure that you are having it inclusive the right way? So we run projects and we support organizations and both the public and private sector to help them close their equity gaps. We do this across gender, multi-generational workforces, and then disability inclusion. And this is a fun fact about disability. So the UN extrapolates generally that out of every community, every group, every number of persons,
Mm-hmm.
15% are persons with disability. So if we come to our Nigeria and if we should assume that we are 200 million, that means 30 million of us at minimum are persons with disability. And if we would say that about 50% of that number are people that are of working age, so there's 15 million people who can contribute to the GDP,
Mm-hmm.
who, if they do not have the right opportunities, will not be able to do so.
Yeah.
With the sustainable development goals, we're in the decade of action right now. It will be closing out by 2030, right? So in every element of the 17 SDG goals, there is inclusion in it. The space that we work with at Willway Paradigm is also SDG 8
Mm-hmm.
and SDG 5 around gender, SDG 8 around decent work and economic growth, SDG 9 around innovation and inclusion, and then SDG 17 around partnerships, right? There's so much that can be done. There's so much to do. It is my job and the job of my entire team. I'm the lead consultant at Willway Paradigm to help you see that it's not so hard to put these programs in place. One of the fantastic things that had been happening, I think, especially since 2010, is that for most organizations, especially the ones that affiliate with the SDG goals who are visible at Davos, that's
Mm-hmm.
the World Economic Forum, in their annual reporting, there is the line on their SDG movement. So this all ties together to diversity, equity, and inclusion, whether it's across the gender subject or it's across the sexuality context, which we don't really talk about in Nigeria because by the substantive law right now, if you should disclose that you have any other leanings than what the law says is, you are liable to go to jail. So that does not show up here openly, but it's good to know that those kind of contexts are also taken into account, and of course the disability inclusion. So what we say very nicely is that we are your preferred partner to resolve your equity dilemma across your people, processes,
Mm-hmm.
platforms, and your programs. We co-create your solutions with you. We connect you to the communities you want to join your team or to join your program. And then we also make sure that you have data-driven, sustainable programs because sustainability is so important for every business now. We help you do it easy. We just need you to decide that it's time to do it and it's the right thing to do. And we help you make it happen.
Excellent. Thank you for the explanation. And finally, I would just like to hear about your Nigerian dream? Like, for
Ah,
you, what is, before you transition to, other kind of life, what will you like to see in this place called Nigeria or within these people called Nigerians?
let me start with what I already see and then the more I want to see.
Okay.
What I see, and I talk about so much, is how Nigerians were talented. Oh my God. If you are looking for talent in Nigeria, you are spoiled for choice. We have every flavor of talent you are looking for.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we are so blessed and we have so many resources. Also, we are creative. We have this can do spirit. We have energy.
Mm-hmm.
We work hard. We play hard. We're energetic. We're charismatic. Niger never go ever carry last anywhere, anywhere. And this is how we are across the entire borders of this great country of ours. I mean, so we already have all this amazing traits.
Yeah.
Then we now have the God-given provisions that we have in across our, with our weather, with
Mm-hmm.
our land,
Mm-hmm.
with our minerals. So we're assets all the way. The Nigeria I like to see
Mm-hmm.
is the one that is a bit more visionary. Because without the vision, we will not be able to apply what we have to build it.
Mm-hmm.
I want a world, a Nigeria that is inclusive. Look, on a one-on-one, Nigerians were very accommodating. But can we make sure that that is the norm everywhere? That everyone, there's space for everyone to thrive. Can
Mm-hmm.
we have our buildings such that as we continue to build, the new buildings should take into account that everyone should be comfortable to come. I
Mm-hmm.
happen to sit on the board of the Lagos State Sports Commission. And
Mm-hmm.
in the new facilities that are being built across Lagos State, across the five Ibile,
Mm-hmm.
not only are we making sure that the arenas are accessible for all persons with disability to participate, that means the athletes themselves.
Mm-hmm.
We're also making sure that spectatorship is inclusive now. Sometimes everybody just thinks it's just the athlete themselves, but persons with disabilities want to come and watch too.
Mm-hmm.
So making sure that everyone is catered for is the Nigeria I want to see. A Nigeria where, with dignity, everyone can be treated properly. If someone should chance me as a person with disability, I should be able to go to the police station and they should take action. And even if the person that chanced me was a fellow person with disability, people should pay for what they do. There should be consequence for bad behavior.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in Nigeria, that is a bit equitable, where it shouldn't matter that a man with disability, the family will arrange for him to still have children so that his name will not die. But the woman with disability
Mm-hmm.
is expected to go and pray for God to help her because nobody's son is supposed to want to marry her.
Yeah.
Just a where everyone can be their best self. Where if I dream that I want to be an astronaut, I'm equipped and empowered to do it and not be reminded that is not your type we're looking for there.
Mm-hmm.
In Nigeria, where a person with disability can set up a restaurant and people will not be afraid to eat the food before they have that disability.
Mm-hmm.
Just a space that allows everyone to be their best selves. And a space where when you cannot help, please still allow the person to find their way and thrive. If we can give a helping hand, let's do it. If we can, please step aside and don't obstruct.
Oh, thank you so much, Dolapo, for this very, very insightful. Like I learned so much, like personally, and I'm sure like people that will be listening to will like learn so much. Like if you're listening from the probably Spotify or Apple Podcasts, you should probably when you were explaining the phone stuff and like
Ah,
maybe like they should go to the YouTube and see through the YouTube. That would be better, right? But like this was so like I don't know. I just as I said, I felt like another mind in my head has opened up. And yeah,
So
thank you.
another world of possibilities is available now.
Exactly. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sharing as much, for being open, and just also for like the way you carry yourself is so,
Oh,
yeah, I don't know. It's like, when other people carry themselves with confidence, you get confidence too. And like, I don't know, I felt that with you, like having a conversation with you. So thank you for that. And good luck for all you're doing with Willway. Thank you for future people with disability that will benefit from the work you're doing. Like, like maybe somebody that will use the stadiums, right, or the places whereby the sports things will happen might never know of a Dolapo, but it's because you were in the board that that thing is there, right? So on behalf of those people as well, I think like it's good to say thank you and just like for not deterring. It was tough from 10th of August 2007, as you stated, right? But like for just finding how to use it as a source of power, that has moved you for the assignments that you've called is also like so inspiring at the same time. So thank you. Just keep going. Like just keep going. They carry go.
so you guys watch this space. Great things are happening across Africa and definitely in Nigeria.
Yeah.
God
Yeah.
bless us all.
Amen. All right. Thank you, Mr. Lapo.